Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, two companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
I want you to think back at one of the leaders that made a big impact in your life. Think through somebody who you want to be like. They did something in your life that you thought, man, if I could do that for someone else, then I would be winning. Who's that leader? For me, one of those leaders is Tony Cloud. Tony Cloud brought out the best in me. Tony Cloud invested in me. He believed in me. He worked with me. He led me. He was one of my first bosses that I worked for after college, and he made a tremendous impact in my life. Now, think through their communication style. Often what you see is that leadership and communication go hand in hand. The most successful leaders and the most successful communicators often have these two in tandem. They can lead, they can bring out the best, they can also communicate so that you understand the best. Now, leadership and communication go hand in hand. Think about what leadership is. Leadership is acting, directing, guiding, working with people to bring about a desired result. What is communication? Communication is speaking, talking, conversing, discussing so that you can get to a desired result. Both of these have results as the end goal. Leadership, you're doing it through others, with others, for others. And then in communication, you're speaking towards others, with others, so that you can get to that result. These two go hand in hand. What I've found is that a lot of people are amazing at doing something, and they have an incredible work ethic. As a result, they keep getting promoted and promoted and promoted. Most of our clients are people who have reached these incredible pinnacles of success. They're leading others because their work and their ability has been recognized. And then they get there and they realize that their communication doesn't match with their leadership. Now they're trying to lead, but that means they need to communicate because they go hand in hand, and they're unable to do so in a way that they really feel is efficient. And so we work with them. On the other hand, communicators, people who talk for a living and who are communicating for a living in many different ways, often don't have the ability to bring a team with them. But if you want to see the most effective way of going about building results and building an empire, building your brand, these two are going to go hand in hand, working with people and through people, and then communicating to people and with people. Now, here's what I want to show you. I'm going to walk through 3 principles of leadership, and then I'm going to relate those leadership principles to communication. Then I'm going to do the same from communication towards leadership. What I want you to see is that so much of what we read about for leadership or communication could be applied to the other. I know this. I work and with people about this, and I write about these subjects. This is what I see again and again, and I want to draw this correlation to you. And then my final encouragement is going to be this, that whatever you worked on last, leadership, now you work in communication. And if you worked on communication last, you would now work on leadership. And that as you work on one, you work on the other. There's all kinds of books and all kinds of courses, all kinds of different ways that you can do this, but you would be working with these tandemly because the success that you want is going to be reached by the marrying of the two, that you are better when you put these two together. A great case study is one of the leaders I work with, reaches the pinnacles of success, multinational, incredible company, incredible brand, and then came to me and said, but my communication's lacking in several different ways. He had gotten there. And you think, well, Mike, he'd gotten there, so why does he need anything else? in his own mind, he realized, in his own life, he realized that he could have done even more and he could be more efficient if his communication improved. So don't wait. Work on communication or work on leadership today. Let's dive into the 3 leadership principles first. First leadership principle, be honest with yourself. Look at reality. Look at what's going on around you and take an honest inventory of where your organization is, where your leadership is, where your team is. I love the book, Good to Great, where it says take an honest, brutal look at reality and yet still maintain hope and faith. One of the aspects of leadership is that we can get so caught up on vision and direction and what's next and what we have to do that we don't take an honest appraisal of where we're at right now, where the organization is at right now, where the team is at right now. But again and again, you'll find that leadership requires being brutally honest with the reality we face ourselves with. That's one of the leadership principles that I hope you embrace and that I want to bring out and remind you today. Second, build people. What is leadership? It's influencing people to get that desired result. It's working through people. Sometimes what I've seen is that someone who does really well gets noticed for their incredible ability to accomplish things and get things done. And so management puts them in a leadership role. And now this person who's great at being an individual contributor is now the team leader. And one of the first things that these type of people need to know is that you got to build people. Like people built you in the past, it's now time for you to build others. Invest in them, your skill, invest training opportunities in them. Find ways to add value to what they do and to who they are. Build people. Then here's the third leadership principle. Believe in the future. Have hope for the future. Just going back to that good to great example, be brutally honest with what it is right now that's happening, but also believe in the direction you're going. We need people who don't just talk about the future, who don't just step towards the future, but paint a really desirable picture of where we're going. That's what we need in politics. That's what we need in government, in all different levels. But it's also what we need in corporations, in small business owners. We need it in all areas of leadership because then the team says, yeah, I want to go with you there. I see where you're trying to take me. I see how you're building me. I see how you're honest with where we're at, but I also see where you're taking us. We want to follow people who give us hope and believe in the future. Now, those are some leadership principles. Just quickly walked through them. Now, let's take them from the leadership realm over to the communication realm. How do these apply in communication? Well, with communication, you need to be brutally honest with the reality you're facing as a communicator. Okay, I'm in a virtual setting, or the people seem like they're checked out. I didn't come prepared, or I came very prepared. You want to honestly take assessment of where you're at. You can't hope to get to where you want to go. You need to start with where you are. That way you can get to where you want to go. Then you can map it out. If you don't know where you are, if you don't know what they know, it's going to be hard for you to communicate, to direct, to teach, to instruct, to guide where you want to go. So take honest assessment of where you are. I often start the speeches I do with questions. What do my audience need? What do they already know? Who are they? What level of education? What level of background? What training do they have? Understanding the reality of the situation. It makes my communication improve. Second aspect that I talked about in terms of leadership was to build people. If your speech, if your communication is not about people, then it means it's about you. Think about that. If your communication is not about people, if it's not to improve their situation, to help them gain insight, or to help them feel a certain way, or to guide them to specific actions, then all it is entertainment and arrogance. Look at me, I'm going to stand up and talk to people and I hope people like me, which is also a recipe for all kinds of nervousness if you're wondering what people think about you. I talk about that in that orange book right there, Speak With No Fear, that you got to be thinking about them, not necessarily thinking about you. So how are you building people with the speech that you're giving? So you want to be brutally honest with the facts, with the reality of your speaking situation. Then you want to be thinking about how to build people. And the third, you want to believe in the future. You want to paint a picture of where you're going. Now, do you see how that one right there mirrors leadership so well? How do you paint a picture in leadership? Well, you do it through communication. Leadership and communication go hand in hand again and again and again. Now, let's go ahead and take some communication principles, and then let's go ahead afterwards and show you how they relate to leadership. So, communication principles. Listen to understand. So if you're speaking to a situation, you're a team leader and you're going to be leading a team meeting. Listen to understand. Before you go in or before you start your monologue, before you start your presentation, the wrapping up, the summary, whatever it might be for you, listen to understand. Sometimes in communication, people just give their opinion, give their thoughts, and disregard everything that comes before. As a result, you might be getting words out there, but you're not connecting through that communication. You want to understand them before you speak to them. In sales, this is so important. In sales, you need to ask questions and really dive in, acknowledge, explore, then respond. So you're not talking about something they don't need. When I was in debate in college, we didn't listen to understand. We listened to react. We listened to negate. We listened to argue. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of people do it in American politics now, as they've grown up, these debaters grown up, or that's how they do it in the corporate world. That's how they do it in the family life. But if we listen to understand, then we could speak to the real issue that's at stake. Understand first. Second, leadership, or second, communication principle. Know what you want to say. When you go into a meeting, when you go into a presentation, when you make a sales pitch, what is the one thing, and max 3 things that you want to get across? There's got to be an underlying, big, overarching goal of that time. Right here, here's what I want you to see. Work on your leadership and communication. The two cannot be divorced. They must be a whole. So for you, what is the one thing you want to say? And that becomes the organizing thought for everything you do. It might be a product you want to sell. It might be an objective for the team. It might be that you want people just to feel good. What is the one thing that you want them to walk away with? That becomes this organizing element for everything else. If you want to stay away from rambling, come back to the one thing. Keep coming back to the one thing. And here's the third communication element. Follow up and get feedback. To improve in communication, we know you need follow-up and feedback. When I do coaching with people, we record it and I send it back to them so they can hear what I have to say, and then they can keep on seeing it in themselves and keep on hearing what I have to say in that. Follow-up and feedback is vital. So when I do a workshop for a company, I follow up along the way. Is this seem right? Are we on the right track? And then at the end, was that what you were looking for? Make sure that I understand so that I can prove it next time I work with them or next time I work with a similar client. Follow-up and feedback is so vital for communication because it might be that we're talking a whole bunch and never hear something back. I want follow-up and feedback right here. Sure, I want subscriptions and listens and all that kind of stuff. That's great. And I want some feedback, not in the way of internet trolls going, you're stupid, I hate you, you're the awful person, that sucked. That's not helpful. That's just someone being mean. I also don't want, hey, you're awesome, you're amazing, you're incredible. That doesn't help either. It feels good, but it doesn't really help. I want feedback like, hey, that third principle that helped, or I needed more thoughts on that, or could you do something like this? That would help me as a communicator. Now let's take those communication principles and let's relate them over to leadership. Listen to understand. If you're going to direct your team, you need to understand who's on your team, and you need to listen to them so that you can provide feedback or direction or clarity for what they need. Listen to understand. Second one we talked about was know what you want to say. Well, in leadership, know where you want to go. That vision, that clarity. I write about this in Lead with No Fear. We talk about this clarity, this high definition vision that says this is where we are going. That helps people know whether they even want to be on the team or not. Where are you taking people? Where are you directing people? And the third one, the follow-up, well, that's really helpful as well. That you can do a 360 assessment. Understand how it is that your team perceives your leadership. How is it that your colleagues and your superiors understand your leadership? I had one of my bosses do that at one point in time in my career. And unfortunately, they did it a little bit too late in their journey. But But it would have been really helpful for them to get that feedback so that they could have avoided some of the mistakes. And honestly, there's been some times where I needed it and I should have done it, and that would have improved my leadership. And there have been times where I did and it improved. So these communication principles become leadership principles. And the leadership principles that you've read books about and studied and learned in college, they become communication principles. These two go hand in hand. Don't neglect one and build the other. Don't be like the person who goes to the gym and does all upper body but forgets leg day. No, you want to be a strong person all together. So invest in your leadership, invest in your communication, strengthen one. And when you do it intentionally, when you strengthen one, you'll strengthen the other. And then in 5 years, someone will get that question. Who's a leader that you respect? Who's a leader that you want to follow? Who's a leader that you want to be like? And there's a great chance, a great probability that they will say, you.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.